Just give me a little timer.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight in this freezing cold weather. We appreciate you all taking the time and the energy to bear the winter. My name is Jamie Ritchie. I'm president of Webster Central PTSA, and we want to thank Webster Central School Districts for starting Parent University. There are topics and discussions that parents and teachers and students alike all have, and we appreciate coming out tonight and putting together to answer some of the questions that we have. I myself am part of the Hold On group. Whether you're looking at something on your phone, hold on. You're doing a presentation, technology doesn't work, hold on. Your kids are on their laptops or their iPads, and they're not listening, you want them to get off, hold on, right? How many other people are part of the Hold On group? Yeah, right? In one way or another, we are all part of the Hold On group. There's a lot of things within the Hold On group, though, that we need to look at. The safety, the security, the mental health of ourselves, of our families, of our students. So we want to thank you again, Joe, for coming out and giving us a little bit more information about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what did we not know that we don't know. So I want to pass it over to you and take it away. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out this evening on a cold night. Thank you for coming out to our presentation of Technology Balance, Parenting in the Digital Age. For those of you in the audience, you have a QR code on the postcard that you were given. Be able to reach the slides through that QR code. For those of you on the live stream or watching this on the recorded version, the first slide holds the QR code, which will take you to the slides, or you can use the URL listed on that slide page. My name is Joe Montemero. I am the Director of Technology and Educational Information here at Webster Central Schools. I'd like to thank PTSA and Jamie Ritchie for the wonderful introduction, as well as co-sponsoring this event. We could not do these events without PTSA, and certainly the research that they do from getting some information from parents helps us shape the presentations that we do, as well as provide you pertinent information on a monthly basis from our digital citizenship newsletter to help you. Who am I really? I am first and foremost a husband and a father of 3 wonderful children in this district that span age ranges from a senior to a 5th grader. So I also am a parent who has made many mistakes. So you're in the audience and you are in good company if you are here to answer questions and learn just like I am. A little bit of background on me. I've been in education for 25 years, a long time. I've had the privilege of being a school counselor as well as an assistant principal here at Spry, and then recently in the last few years moved into my technology role. I believe that I am in this role for a particular reason, and that reason is that I am able to bring the mental health human side into the technology side and hopefully bring a middle ground, and that's why we're here tonight, to talk about that middle ground balance. The parenting road. The parenting road can be very winding. It can also be fraught with different challenges as you go through parenting. This presentation is kind of difficult to put together in the fact that I never know who's going to be in my audience. And what I mean by that is I have parents here who have children who are in kindergarten. And then I also have parents who are here with children who are seniors and dealing with very different topics in terms of digital citizenship. So I want you to take a few moments. I want you to reflect on why are you attending this presentation? Why are you here this evening? What are you hoping out of this presentation? As you reflect on that, I bet you have a human connection in mind. It's usually your children, your family, somebody you love. It's usually not the piece of technology or something that you're trying to find out about technology. It's about how can you help those people, those humans around you, deal with what we are dealing with in terms of technology and become better people. I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility to try and find some guideposts for you this evening. I will not be able to speak to every single one of your issues, and I certainly will not be able to drill down to all of the things that are involved in this. But I will point out resources, and I will find places for you to go. And at the end of this presentation, I hope that you find a way to to find some information and find some hope and find some help for those humans that you love. My goal is to provide you a baseline knowledge tonight, to provoke your thought, and show you some pertinent resources that will help maybe straighten out that little parenting road and give you some ease and some peace as you go through this journey. I want you to think of an enjoyable memory. Raise your hand if that memory includes your phone. Raise your hand if the memory includes humans. Most predominantly, that memory includes humans. It's interesting that something that dominates our time does not usually involve our most enjoyable recollections. So when you think about balance, I want you to think about the quote that's on the screen. The quote that's on the screen is from the movie Ready Player One, also the book Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The quote says, "That was when I realized as terrifying and painful as reality can be, it also is the only place where you can find true happiness, because reality is real." During the last few years of the pandemic, we've had to rely on technology quite a bit. It has gotten us through some times that were difficult. It's also made some great connections, and it's also helped us in ways that we never thought were possible. But reality is real. And how do we find those human connections and find that balance is what we are here to do tonight. It's very interesting that on December 2nd of 2020, right before the pandemic, I gave a presentation on balance. Prior to the pandemic, parents were asking for a presentation on digital citizenship about balance. Right before the pandemic hit, I gave a very similar presentation. This evening, I'm giving the presentation on balance because PTSA had given a survey out and asked, what is the most challenging factor of technology at this point in your life, in your family's life? And that topic was balance. So tonight we'll be looking at balance, and we're beginning to look at how you can meet the challenges of the technological world and bringing back some of the pieces of the human world to reality. All right, back in my day, remember I've been in education for 25 years, back in my day, we recognized some of these pictures. The old push-button telephone, the television screen, the newspaper sitting around. Many of our kids would not recognize some of these pictures. How many of you recognize this? Remember when televisions used to go off air? We used to be a time when programming would actually shut down, and you'd be able to get respite from the information that was coming out of technology. Our kids do not know that world. Our kids have always been on air. They have been in the world immersed in technology that is the 24/7 world of technology. There is no sign-off. There is no shutdown. The difference between our experiences of having some time off air and the children of today being constantly on air is part of what causes the anxiety for parents. It's part of what causes us to feel like we are out of balance. Our children do not know a different world. They do not know the off-air portion. The encroachment of technology into our world has only increased over the last 3 years. Remote work, work from home, 24/7 on your phone, at your house. There is the blurred lines, the barriers between home and work have been completely grayed out, or home and school have been completely grayed out. We need to find a way to use some of that air time, but also we have to realize that the technology world that we have is going away. It's not something we can shut off. It's something that we have to evolve with and that we have to learn from. So let's talk about where we are now and where we've come from. 2007, the first iPhone came out. 95% of teens say that they have access to smartphones, and 45% of teens feel addicted, according to Pew Research 2021. We spent an average of 5 years. Sorry, little technical difficulties. We spend an average of 5 years and 4 months of our lifetimes on social media. 32% of parents reported that kids ages 7 to 9 use social media apps in 2021. As we go through these numbers and these statistics, how do we feel about these statistics? Are they good? Are they bad? Maybe they're neither. Maybe it's just a reflection of a changing society and something that we have to learn from. Technology has changed at a pace that's a little bit faster than what we've been able to come up with as far as how to learn from that, deal with that, and adapt to it. Technology is no longer something that we can switch off, and it's certainly not anything that we can do without anymore. So we need to learn as communities, parents, families, how to move forward with it. So the question is, what are the beneficial things that come from technology? And there are a lot of benefits to technology. Tools, medical advances, robotic surgery, assistive technology, connecting the globe, access to almost every piece of information ever created in human history, translation, GPS, those are just to name a few. If you could have told my 17-year-old self that in my pocket I would have a calculator, a telephone, an alarm clock, a map, and a camera all in my pocket, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. And that's just on my phone and the startup menu. Technology has some wonderful beneficial things, and we have to recognize that those beneficial things can be used to help humanity. But in order to do that, we have to be able to put up some guideposts and be able to say to ourselves, how do we deal with this and how do we work with this? There are some detrimental things that come with technology, as we've all seen. Spider-Man would say, with great power comes great responsibility. And it's our responsibility to be able to work within our systems and our values in order to create technology that benefits humans and work with that technology. Some of the detrimental things that we've seen are divided attention, the attention economy, which is something that we will talk about, artificial intelligence, mental health issues, and a lot of these can be debated both ways, which is why I have the question mark next to detrimental and also beneficial. Technology is just a tool. It just depends on how you're going to use it and what you're going to do with it. Many of you have seen the recent reports called the Facebook files, and some things that have to do with the attention economy and how Facebook operates and what they know it does to children's mental health. Those are the things that we have to learn to be able to drive ourselves to, learn, and understand as parents, because we have not been immersed in that economy before. We did not grow up with these tools. We do not necessarily understand how they work, but those are some of the things that we have to seek out and to learn. In order to do that, we have to understand the connections that we make and understand where that attention economy comes from. So, let's take a quick look at the exponential growth of technology over time. If you look at this graph here, exponential technology has shown an immense growth since about 2007, when the iPhone was invented. And that's because now you are connected to 24/7 access, and the computing and the robotics has accelerated over time and will only continue to accelerate. Gaming systems, refrigerators, cars, doorbells, watches, everything is connected to the internet now. It's called the Internet of Things. And how and what else will come in the future is something we can only imagine. It is something that we have to learn to be able to work inside, as well as understand how those things work in order to help our children. What's next? We don't necessarily know, but in the last 2 months, we've seen artificial intelligence debate itself at Oxford. 2 artificial intelligences debated whether or not there should be artificial intelligence in an Oxford debate, and they decided that there may or may not be a best way to ethically move forward with artificial intelligence. You can look up the information on Google. It's very interesting to watch 2 artificial intelligences debate back and forth with each other. I don't show this to scare you, but I show it to you because it's something that the pace of it gives us the anxiety. Because there's so much information, so many new things coming at us that we have yet to develop a consistent guidepost and a consistent way to be able to think about these things. Using that exponential growth graph, let's take a look at the rise of social media and the attention economy. Things are kind of humming along there until you hit about 2007. As you move past 2007, look at the meteoric rise in social media and the attention economy. And what we mean by the attention economy is that these apps, these social medias, are developed to hold your attention. They are designed to behaviorally keep you online as long as possible. If you think about some of the apps that you see up here, in order to refresh them, you pull down. You pull down just like a slot machine, and you see what comes up next. And then you pull down again, looking for something to come up in your feed, an intermittent reinforcement, something to keep you online. The longer you're online, the more money they make. The more money they make, the more attention they grab. The more attention they grab, the more data they grab. This is why they have had such a meteoric rise, because they are designed to have intermittent reinforcement that keeps you online. And kids are not developmentally ready to be able to sift through that and understand where that cutoff is. It's no wonder that we see the same trend in mental health issues for kids. Things are kind of humming along there until about 2007, and then you start to see a rise in anxiety and depression in students. The connection that we see to mental health issues and the use of technology is a concerning trend. But again, there is a flip side to this. There is also a lot of good that has come from social connections. There are counseling apps. People who would not have access to healthcare or counseling or any of those things on the flip side of these social media pieces. It's a matter of how do we use them in an appropriate way and be able to deal with some of the issues that come along. This might be the only time in human history when it's never been easier to run from ourselves. When kids take their cell phones out, or anybody takes their cell phones out, in general, their feelings of boredom. And how do we escape the boredom and the things that we normally would used to sit with and be okay with? The challenges that come with daily life in this generation are going to be difficult. And how do we learn to teach them to be able to sit with their feelings and to not pull that slot machine, not grab that piece of technology, not go on a gaming system, not take away from the human world and go to the tech world? Right now, the balance is tipped in the scales of technology. And we need to tip the scales a little bit back so that we all feel better and our anxiety feels better. It's an intentional choice for us to be able to choose things and be able to show them how to do that. This quote comes from Max Stossel, who is the educational leader at the Center for Humane Technology. On the bottom of this slide, you'll see that he has provided some tools and reminders for parents that you can click on. This is a little tough to do with the handheld mic. Sorry about that. You'll see a parenting guide that you can go through with all kinds of tips on how to help through this technological world, such as creating phone-free zones, using your alarm clock, and other helpful tools. I want to let you know that there's resources embedded in these slides and that you don't have to be navigating this all alone. There are pieces of information in here that will help you as you go down. How many people remember the saying, garbage in, garbage out? One of the key facets of social media and the internet is the speed at which information is fed to us and how it is fed to us. Each one of the social media platforms has an algorithm behind it. The algorithm will adjust itself based on your choices and based on what it thinks you will do and will keep you online for a longer amount of time. So whatever grabs your attention, they will feed you more and more and more of it. The attention economy is based on keeping you there and connected. And the longer that you're connected, the more potential for garbage is to go in. And that transforms your thinking. It transforms who you are. It transforms what comes out. And for kids who have yet to be able to make decisions, have yet to have the brain capacity to be able to sift through some things that may be right, some things that may be wrong, some things that may be true, some things that may be false, or just some things that they don't understand. They're taking it all in at a pace which we have never been able to take in before. The longer that they're on it, the more information goes in, and the more things that may come out. Where they come out may be different. It may come out in anger. It may come out in anxiety. It may come out in their writing. It may come out in the fact that they cannot disconnect from the device. The thing that we need to do is be able to be conscious about how we curate our social media. Are we actually actively curating the things that we want to see? Or are we just passively consuming what the algorithm and the social media and the engineers are feeding us to keep us there? That's the big distinction for kids. It is very difficult for them to do at the level of function that they at because their brains have not developed enough to be able to make conscious decisions. And that's where a parent can really step in and make some decisions about how do we curate this? What are the things that you really like? One of the questions that you want to ask your children about the apps that they're using, instead of asking them, do you like that app? Do you like what's on that app? Ask them, how does that app make you feel? Is it making you feel better, or is it making you feel worse? What are the things that you're liking? What are the things that you're curating? Do they align with your family values? Do they align with the person that you are in the real world? Is your digital self different than your real self? Those are the things that you need to set up as a guidepost as a family. That's where we get to this quote from Jerry Colonna. How am I complicit in creating the conditions I say I don't want? As parents, we have to sit down and self-evaluate on our own. We have to say to ourselves, parenting is hard. Parenting has become exponentially harder in the digital age. Because now, we're not just parenting, in which I don't know if any of you ever got a handbook with any of your children, because I did not. I also did not get a handbook on what the world would drive to my children through technology. And I also didn't get a handbook on how to use it myself and understand it because I didn't grow up with it. And I'm assuming none of you did. So this is where parenting got a lot harder. We have to learn. We have to research. We have to be able to communicate with each other. We have to be able to say and not be embarrassed about saying, I do not know what you're talking about. I need help. Can you help me? Do you know about this? One of the biggest things that you need to kind of sit and with a baseline in as a parent is, what are my values? What are our values as a family? What do we value as a family, and what do we want to translate over into the digital world as well? Those values should be in alignment in both places, in real life and in your digital life. The other thing you need to do is take a look at yourself for modeling. Kids look to parents to be models. What are you modeling? Are you on the phone all the time? Are you distracted? If you're working from home, are you leaving work at a normal time? Your counter, your desk, your couch, wherever your work is now for remote work, is that 24/7? Are they seeing you use it all the time, be texted all the time, emailing all the time? Do you have break times that you actually take from devices? They will do what they see, and it will help those conversations if those things are in alignment. How do we get there? What do we really need to do to find balance? We need to take intentional actions. And what I mean by that is, if you remember The Wizard of Oz and they said, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, there is no man behind the curtain come and help. Right? It's us. It's each one of us helping each other, helping our kids. We have to be thoughtful about how we structure this world in order to balance it, in order to make sense of what we want our kids to understand about it and how they are going to go out into the world and help shape this technology world that they're going to be immersed in. So some of the intentional actions really comes back to mental health. How do you feel? Setting good habits. Communicating verbally. How many of your kids actually use the phone as a phone? Can they call a pizza shop and order a pizza? Set up little routines like that. Are you calling grandparents? Can you FaceTime them? Human verbal communication is something that we're direly trying to rebuild for our kids. Social skills. Those are the things that we somewhat dipped kind of low for in the pandemic. How do we intentionally build those back in our households and make it easier for them? Connecting with nature. We need to get outside and connect with nature and become into this world and come out of the reality of that virtual world sometimes. Introspection of thought. They need time to think. When they're on electronic devices or games, there are some wonderful things. There are some recreation that comes with it. But if they never disconnect, they never have that time to think and imagine. I'm not sure that kids would ever have discovered the stick if they had had a phone the entire time growing up. We need some introspection of thought. Nothingness. Yeah, nothingness. How to sit with nothingness. How to be bored and not actually be reaching for that piece of technology. What do you do? How do you create things? How do you get outside and do some different things? Exercise is a huge piece of this. Any type of exercise that you get out helps your mental health. Raising the balance that we are losing from some of the technology. Balancing out those anxieties, those anger, the mental health. Those are some of the things that we can build into their day. But that requires also building in structure. Parents are the ones that set the structure. Kids are the ones that need that structure to become healthy. In order to do that, we have to be okay with setting a structure for ourselves. It's easier if you do it together as a family. Read a physical book. On the bottom of this slide, you will see there are some tips for how to get there. There's some parent mental health tips and some family tips for each of the grade levels, K through 5, 6 through 12. I'm not going to present them tonight, but you'll be able to look through those and places to get started. Sometimes we have to take a hard look at what the family setup actually looks like.
I'm not hungry.
What's wrong, sweetheart?
I miss Daddy.
I know. We all miss him.
I miss him more.
Oh, no, I miss him the most.
I miss him a lot.
No,
I got missing him.
I miss him
more.
so much more.
Hey, everyone shut up. This filter makes me look like a cat. It's so funny, it's making me cry.
Modeling. How do we model for our kids? And what does that look like for them? Those are hard conversations to have. They're hard things to think about. It's also hard for us to deal with our own devices. That's why you need to take some baby steps. The best way to start taking a baby step is to establish family rules. And what that means is that the kids have to be a part of those rules. It has to be a joint conversation or it won't work. That doesn't mean that you don't get the final say as the parent. It just means that this is the world that they live in. They don't know the off-air world. They've always grown up on the on-air world. Part of their social existence lives on the technological world. That's how they communicate. That's how they connect. That's how they feel connected. We just don't know that world. But in order for family rules to work and to find some balance, you need to be able to do that together. And you need to be able to have those hard conversations. That also gives you 2 points, because you're not only helping yourself technology, but you're also helping them with communication and social skills at the same time. So you're doing 2 things. On the bottom of this slide, you'll see that there's a family media agreement created by Common Sense Education. That is a great template to start with. If you don't know where to start or have a conversation about your rules in your family, that would be a good place that will drive you to some significant questions that you can have, right? Some of the things inside of there, create some screen-free times and zones. Do you have any time where you're not on a screen? And you really have to kind of think about that, because it's not just phones. It's televisions. It's gaming systems. It's anything that's really connected to the internet. Do you ever just stop and have a time where the entire family has a screen-free time? Or a zone? Is there a zone? Is there a homework zone, maybe, where you're not allowing the phone, but they're allowed to do just homework? The phone can be a great distractor, even if it's just in the room. Have you tried some parental controls? Is that something that you value? Each family is different. The tolerance for each family is very different. The devices in each family are different. The needs for each family are different. However, as a parent, when you sit down and you set those values, is this something that you need help with? Is this something that you believe you need? Depending on the age of your kids and what you're trying to do you need parental controls? You have to model the behavior. If you don't model the behavior, kids are going to see that, and then they're just going to disobey the family rules that you just created. Watch and play together. Whether we like it or not, the kids are much better at technology than we are. If you sit down with them and ask them questions and watch them, they will teach you amazing things. And then you will know more about what they're doing. And then they'll be interested. And then you'll be able to help them curate those things that you value inside of technology and be able to help them, guide them as they learn new things and try new things. There are digital well-being tools. A lot of the companies in the last few years have put out digital well-being tools, meaning how long are you on a screen? How long are you on a particular app? Do you want to set a bedtime? Do you want to set a wake time? Do you want to see how much your heart rate has gone up since you started using this app? The tools inside of there are very powerful. You just have to be able to use them to your advantage. Identify healthy behaviors in your family. What's healthy, what's not healthy? 8 hours on technology? 5 hours? 6? In the bedroom? Out of the bedroom? Taking it with you on a trip? All of those different things have to align to your values. Communicate those values clearly so that kids know. The more that you communicate with them, the more that you reiterate with them, the more that you repeat with them, the more that they will do that on their own when you're not there, when they have to make a choice. Is that choice in alignment with what you want? Turn off your notifications. Those red boxes that continue to count on your phone and make it look like it's a giant alert that you have to go to is telling your brain something is wrong. You got to do this. Get it now. Do it now. Be there now. Help me. Fix me. Check my 450 emails. We do it all the time. Parents can't get away from email. Kids can't get away from notifications on Snapchat or Instagram. Those are the things that are designed to bring you back. And they're sent not necessarily at the time that a notification actually happens. They're sent by the algorithm at different times to give you intermittent reinforcement to make you continue to come back. You can shut the notifications off on different apps and be able to give yourself some breathing room. Give your children some breathing room. The biggest one, seek help and information. Do not feel like you are alone. Again, we do have all of the world's information at our fingertips, so let's use it for good. There are places you can find resources. Let's look at a few of those. Again, this presentation is more about balance and certainly can't talk to specific situations, but there are specific situations, things that you're worried about, things that you want answers to. If you need to go deeper, if you have questions like, what do I do if? How do I help my child do X? What is TikTok? What about Instagram? What age should I get my children a phone? What's an Oculus? All of these different questions are places that you can find answers. But this is where parenting became harder. How do we look for those lifelines? How are we okay to find those lifelines? Can we learn the pieces that we need to learn to help our children? Here is a starting point. This is where you can go deeper. You're going to have to kind of go deeper on your own a little bit, but at least we can steer you in the right direction. Here I've listed several books, if you're a book person and you want to learn about some different ways that technology has affected lives. There's a book called Irresistible by Adam Alter. He is a psychologist in New York City, and it talks a lot about the attention economy and about how kids are connected and how the behavioral science of it and the building of those tools keeps your kids connected and what to do about it. Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport talks about how to bring down the technology in your life, how to manage it, how to keep it at a lower level so that you can spend a little more time off air and with humans. 24/6, that's right, 24/6 by Tiffany Schlain is a book that talks about taking a digital Sabbath or a digital day off, one day a week for your family, completely technology free, and what that does to your brain. And then there's a book by Victoria Dunkley called Reset Your Child's Brain, which is also about how to digital detox and shape your world in a little better place. Parental controls are hard, but I would start with Common Sense Guide on parental controls because it talks about what are parental controls. What can you do with parental controls? It's kind of your first dip your toe into parental controls. Each company has their own parental controls. Whether it's a cell phone company like Verizon or a social media company like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, all of them come with parental controls. Parental controls have kind of morphed as well into the fact that since all of your devices are connected digitally, where do the parental controls go? Do you have them on your television? Because your television is connected to the internet most likely if you have a smart TV, which also probably has Netflix and some other places like Disney Plus that all have their parental controls, as well as gaming systems which connect to the internet. So you start slow, and then you begin to learn, and then you reach out. There are companies that are monitoring tools and certainly have a wealth of information and that you can use as a parent. Three that I picked out are Bark, Circle, and Life 360. Those are popular parental monitoring tools. So those tools will take you through how to monitor what's going on your children's devices, set time limits. Those are services that you pay for, but they also come with a wealth of information. So if you even don't want the service and you go on these sites, you will find a lot of information on digital citizenship, social media, balance, how to balance your time out as families. And then you can make a decision about whether or not this is something that will help you or something that you need. There are 2 movies that I'd like to highlight. They are documentaries. These are good places to start if you'd like to understand what the world we are living in and your children are living in is doing. They are very documentary based, and they also they don't pull any punches. They're talking about real world situations. And so you just have to go into it as a parent knowing that this is something that you want to explore, that you want to understand, and that you want to view first before you decide if that's something that you want your children to see or if that's something that your family wants to use. There are some great resources connected to both movies, Childhood 2.0 and The Social Dilemma, and both can be found at the links. And websites. There are a plethora of websites, but I picked out the ones that we use the most often. Common Sense Media and Common Sense Education, we partner with them in the school district to teach digital citizenship lessons. There are family guides inside of Common Sense Media and Common Sense Education. Anything from how to teach your kid to have a good digital footprint, to when to buy my child a cell phone, to what apps are good, to how do we just talk about social media. The Center for Humane Technology, I mentioned them before. Max Stossel is their education supervisor. There's a wealth of material in there, parental guides, as well as information about things like the Facebook files, about where technology is going. Their mission is really to try and strive to change the way that technology is designed and the way that technology interacts with humans. There's a site called Be Internet Awesome from Google. That's their digital citizenship site. And there are a wealth of lessons and parent resources in there. NetSmarts is also connected to digital citizenship, and it is put out by, now I'm going to forget, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children here in Rochester. And we've had them come into the schools and do presentations before. There are some balance tips there from ISTE, as well as I've connected a children's mental health link. Sometimes you need more. And that's where we come in. I will take questions from the audience, but anyone who is watching this on the live stream or anyone who has watched this on the recording, there is a link to a form there that you can submit questions or ask for assistance, and I will personally reach out to you and answer those questions and help you find resources. So with that, I want to thank you for being such a wonderful audience. If you have any questions at this time, it would be greatly appreciated taking those. So we have some questions that came in via the internet.
All right, so here are some questions. PTSA put out a survey. There's many folks also online, so thank you all for being here. And we put out a survey ahead of time on questions that you have. So many of these you did answer and touch on, and if you maybe want to put the resource slide back up,
Sure.
I think that you'll be able to answer a lot of these. One thing that I say to my kids, I have all elementary and lower, right? I have a second grader, a pre-K, and a 3-year-old who thinks he's in college. And the phrase you'll hear in my house if you're ever driving by is, go be humans, go play like humans, right? Because already at that age, my kids want to be on technology, want to let me be on daddy's phone, let me be on the, the digital box, go be humans, right? That's a phrase that we use a lot of times, and I think that parents can understand so much of what you've given as far as these resources. I appreciate that as a parent, so thank you. One of the questions that came in was, kids have access to everything, and I can't keep my eyes on it all. I know you mentioned the parenting tools. Is there something specific for somebody that's, their kids are constantly downloading and they're trying to keep up with what they're downloading?
Those are the tough questions to answer, right? Because everybody's situation is different and everybody's comfortable level with technology is different. So in that case, I would probably explore some of the parental controls. But again, I think it's always starts with the family conversation. What do we value? What do we want to set up as a schedule? What's our structure, right? The technology tends to take over. And the kids tend to become angry when you take away the technology, right? But we have to remember that we are the guidepost. Their brain is not developed. It's going to come out as anger until we set up those guideposts and are allowing them to have that consistent routine. It will be a struggle for a little while, especially if they're used to doing everything and getting everything online. They're going to have to be a little bit of a detox there. But the other thing is if you're more comfortable saying, you know what, I would like them to have technology, but I want control over it, that's where those parental controls come in, because you can quickly limit their time, you can pull up and disseminate what you want them to get. It does take a little bit of work, a little bit of understanding, but some of those products can help you out.
Great, thank you. The next one is, how do I protect my middle schooler and or talk to them about digital citizenship? How do I get them to truly understand?
Well, I worked in middle school for 20 years, and it is a time of transition, and it is a time of learning who you are, and it is a time of identity. The human conversations are always where you start. You have to start with those conversations about what you value, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And those lead into the digital citizenship conversations. You can pull lessons from common sense education about how to talk to your kid about their digital footprint. What happens to the things that you put online? Who is the person that you're putting out there and who can see those things? There's a common misconception that the Snapchat feeds go away. They don't really go away. Those things are still there, and kids don't understand that. They don't necessarily understand that these companies are in business to make money off of you. And what you are doing is creating content for them to make more money off of other kids. So those are the hard conversations that we have to start telling kids to get them to understand what digital citizenship looks like. And it's always that balance between, does your real life look like your digital life? Are your values the same in real life as your digital life? We used to say, would you do that in front of your grandmother? If you did that online, would you do that in front of, anybody in your household? Would you do that at your dinner table? Whatever your family rules are and your values are, that's where you start, and then you get deeper and deeper into those conversations.
Thank you. This one I know you touched on, and the resources are there, was digital balance as a family. And that's, again, if you go back on the slide here, you touched on that many times, reading the physical book, exercise, device-free dinner. So that was fantastic information there. How much is too much?
I wish there was a pat answer to that, but there really isn't. There is not a pat answer to that, because what is your tolerance? What is your tolerance as a family? Are you a 2-hour family? Are you a 4-hour family? Are you a 6-hour family? The thing that I can tell you from all of this is be transparent. You know as a parent in your gut if something doesn't feel good, right? I think all of us have felt for a little while that things are out of whack, right? We've known this in education for a while, that something doesn't feel good. Sometimes we just have to listen to ourselves and say, I don't feel good about this. We need to reevaluate what we're doing. We need to sit down. So you might set some rules, and those rules may go out the window, and you may have to start over because something else comes in or something takes over. And that's the time when you have to know your kids the best and your tolerance the best. Yeah. Right. Right. Well, you know your children the best. So if you see their mental health or their sleep or their eating habits off, are they bringing their phone into their bedroom and continuing it at night? That blue light from the devices alters your sleep. and prevents kids from having a good night's sleep. So maybe one of those device-free zones is the bedroom, and you have a set parameter of it's going in this lockbox for the night, you're not getting it for the rest of the night, we're going to have a good night's sleep. Do those things. But only you as a parent really know your kid and what is going on with them.
I can attest to that. We created a device table. It's locked. We have a puppy, so we really have it locked. It's in the kids' front playroom, and that's where all the devices go, because we kind of went through that. They're left on the couch. They're here, they're there, but they're also grab it, grab it, grab it. And so now all the devices, they get charged on that table, and they stay on that table. And I can say as a family, that's made a huge difference for just the I want, right? I don't have to tell them to be humans as many times now during the day, so it definitely helps. So thank you. I'm going to kind of bundle a couple of these are together, right? A lot of questions about kids downloading apps. Does every device have parental controls? Yes, you talked about that. Decisions made as a child, how does it affect my child's future? And boundaries with kids. So kind of bundling them all together, I think they kind of all fit.
Yeah, I think it depends on the age of the child that you're having this conversation with, obviously. How does it affect your child's future? It depends on what they're doing. Obviously, there are some amazing things in technology that help us connect to our future, right? I mean, every college is online. So, I mean, if you're going to look for colleges, there's a wealth of information there. There's esports that kids are very involved in, and those are positive things that they can be involved in. But then there are the things that, in terms of their digital footprint, that can affect their future if there are some negative things in there. They need to know that the world is kind of an open book at this point, and that colleges, careers, military, they're all looking at your information to see what patterns they can see, to see if you're an acceptable person for their organization. Is there anything in your past that would make us question whether or not you should be brought on to either a job or to a career or to move on into something that you might want to do? And those conversations need to happen earlier, honestly. Our kids, we have seen over the years, since I became assistant principal way back in the day, those things have dropped in grade level every year. And the numbers of kids with devices in the elementary school has gone up every single year since 2007, to the point where I would say, in some of the research that I've done, well over half the kids in third grade own a phone across the country. So those conversations need to start in elementary school, but they need to start as a family, and you need to find those boundaries early. Does that encompass that? There was a lot there. There was a lot of pieces to kind of pick apart.
Thank you. And then the last one I'll just bundle again. It's about gaming, live gaming, cyberbullying, violence in general. Will violent games make my kid violent? Does playing live gaming, is that going to cause, again, my child to be violent, my child to get into fights? So just maybe kind of encompass everything together with gaming, live streaming, and the violence that we're seeing now in the Fortnite and Minecraft were the two. What does that do to a child at any age with their mindset and their intention to become violent?
I don't think in terms of gaming that there is a right or a wrong at this point. It's like everything else. Technology is a tool and can be used for good or for bad. You certainly have a lot more to monitor online with online gaming at this point than you did in the past. The game used to just be in your house, you used to just be able to play, and now you connect with other people and you're playing across the world. That's where the parental controls come in, because there are times when your children want a game and they want to be with their friends and they can communicate with their friends and have a good time. There is esports, which is hugely positive for a lot of our kids, and is only going to get bigger, really. The esports teams across the county are growing, esports teams in colleges, there's a lot of scholarships, there's a lot of job opportunities there. It's about what do you value and what do you choose to do with the gaming system, right? And we're not just talking about Xboxes and PS4s, we're talking about Oculuses where you have 3D virtual reality. There are more educational games that you can steer them to. There are time limits. There are parental controls. This might be one of those times where you actually sit, watch, play with them, learn the game, You may not be great at it. Some of those controllers are very hard to use. But that's the time when you can sit down with your kid and have a conversation about, how does this game make you feel? What am I seeing inside of this game? Is this reality? Do we behave like this in the real world? Who are you connecting with here on this online piece? Do I want to connect the online piece? At what age should I be doing that? Those are all things that are tough, and that's what makes parenting much harder. And that's where you want to reach out, find your resources, understand. On the Common Sense Education website, Common Sense Parental side, on the media side, you can type in the games, and it will give you a full parent review, and it will talk about the age range for the game. It will talk about whether the game's addictive. It will talk about whether the game has ads. It will talk about different parents who have reviewed the game, and it will give you some great information to start. So if a kid ever comes to you and says, I want to get this app, I want to get this game, I want to watch this movie, and you have no clue what it is, that is a great place to start. Type that in, do some research before you get down that road and talk about what aligns with your family and why you want to do that or not do that. Does that help? Great. Well, unless there's any other questions, I think at this point we're going to wrap it up. Again, if you have other questions, feel free to use the forum. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate your attendance, and stay warm.